Okay, so the election results are in, and you're probably like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Right. We're with you.
Big time.
We've been looking through articles, trying to make sense of it all, and today we're doing a deep dive into this idea.
Okay.
Did the Democrats maybe miss some key message that could change the outcome?
Yeah, it's not just speculation.
Right.
Historians are weighing in, and it's pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah.
They're drawing parallels to past elections, and think Democrats could have resonated more with certain voters if they had shifted their focus a bit.
Interesting. So we're looking at this Newsweek article. Democrats should have listened to Bernie Sanders, historians say. It was published on November 7th and updated on the 8th.
Okay.
And what's got everyone talking is this bold claim by these two historians. They're suggesting that the Democrats should focus more on those bread and butter economic issues.
Right.
The kind of things Bernie Sanders really emphasized during his presidential campaigns.
You know, like income inequality
Yeah.
and the struggles of the working class.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Remember how the economy, especially inflation,
Oh, yeah.
was like a huge factor for voters?
Absolutely.
There were even polls showing that Trump was actually favored over Harris on economic issues.
Yeah.
So it feels like maybe the Democrats missed an opportunity to really tap into that anxiety
Yeah.
and offer some solutions.
That's something a lot of people are feeling right now. Like
Right.
that economic squeeze is real.
Yeah,
So this hits home for many.
absolutely. And the historians, they argue that while Harris did have some progressive policies, in her to-do list,
Yeah.
they think Sanders' messaging might have been more effective
Right.
at connecting with voters who are feeling that economic pinch.
Yeah. Particularly working class and Hispanic voters
Right.
who ended up leaning towards Trump.
Yeah, the article even mentions historian Moshe Temkin pointing out that Sanders won states with large Latino populations
Right.
during the 2020 primaries. So you kind of wonder if the Democrats missed a chance to build on that.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
If you look at the bigger picture, it looks like a potential missed opportunity.
To connect with the key demographic,
For sure.
the article even quotes historian Leah Wright-Rigger,
Okay.
and she says, one of the things that Bernie Sanders has been saying since at least 2014 has been about how the Democratic Party, if it wants to keep these coalitions, needs to talk about bread and butter issues. It needs to talk about politics.
Oh, basically focus on the issues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stuff that impacts people's lives.
Right.
And it's not just historians saying this. The article mentions journalist Mehdi Hassan, podcast host Crystal Ball, even actor John Cusack,
Wow.
all saying similar things about how effective Sanders' messaging could have been.
So this idea was gaining traction even before the election.
It seems like it.
People were sensing that power of addressing economic anxieties head on.
Yeah. But of course, there's always another side to the story. Some argue that Sanders' policies, especially his more left-leaning stances, might have alienated moderate voters, the ones who ultimately supported Biden in 2020. The article brings up those Vermont election results,
Okay.
where Harris outperformed Sanders, even though he kept his Senate seat.
Interesting. That highlights that challenge for any party trying to balance appealing to their base
Right.
while also attracting those swing voters.
So what about Bernie Sanders himself?
Yeah. What does he say?
Well, in a statement he released,
Uh-huh.
he believes that the Democrats, being seen as abandoning the working class,
Right.
made those voters feel abandoned in return.
Makes sense.
He even went on to say, first, it was the white working class, and now it is Latino and black workers as well.
That's a pretty powerful
It
statement.
really is. So what do you think? Did the Democrats miss a chance to connect?
Yeah. Did focusing on those economic anxieties like Sanders did, could it have made a difference?
It's definitely got us thinking.
Me too.
There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, there's a lot there. And this whole thing makes me think about that tension between like pragmatism and idealism in politics.
Oh, interesting.
We see it all the time, not just in the US,
Right.
but globally.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, you've got the pragmatic approach.
Okay.
That's all about finding common ground, compromising to achieve progress,
Yeah.
even if it's incremental.
Uh-huh.
That's often associated with centrism.
Yeah.
Then you have the idealistic approach,
Right.
which is about pushing for bold systemic change,
Yeah.
even if it means shaking things up.
Okay.
And that's often linked to more like progressive or radical movements.
So how does that tie back to the Democrats in this whole argument about Bernie Sanders?
Well, it seems like some people, including these historians,
Okay.
think that Democrats maybe lean too much on the pragmatic side.
Interesting.
Maybe they focused on policies they thought would appeal to the broadest range of voters,
Yeah.
but they kind of missed out on that passionate, aspirational messaging, the kind that could really fire up specific groups.
So in trying to be everything to everyone,
Yeah,
maybe they ended up not connecting deeply enough with anyone.
it's possible. It raises the question, could a more focused message, one that speaks directly to those economic anxieties of the working class,
Yeah.
could it have cut through the noise
Right.
and gotten more support?
Imagine if they had really hammered that home.
Right.
Like, we get it, you're struggling, and we're here to fight for you.
Exactly.
Do you think that would sway some voters?
I don't know. It's like the Democrats were playing it safe
Yeah.
while Sanders was willing to take a risk
Right.
and really go after those issues he felt were most important.
But isn't that tough to do?
Oh, yeah.
Especially in our political climate, which feels so polarized.
Absolutely. It's a tightrope walk for sure.
Right.
But maybe the lesson here is that taking a stand on certain issues, even if they're controversial,
Right.
can be more effective than trying to please everyone.
That makes me wonder, is there a way for the Democrats to kind of blend those two approaches?
Well, interesting.
You know, combine that pragmatism of finding common ground
Yeah.
with the idealism of pushing for bold change.
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And it goes way beyond this election.
Of course.
It's a challenge for any political party trying to navigate this complex and constantly changing electorate.
And a challenge that's only going to get tougher
Right.
as we move further into the 21st century.
The political landscape is like shifting sand.
Yeah.
Parties need to be flexible,
Uh-huh.
always adapting their strategies to connect with voters.
In meaningful ways.
Yeah,
There's a lot to think about here,
for sure.
but I feel like this deep dive is giving us some really insightful perspectives.
I agree. It's so fascinating to see how historical analysis
Right.
can shed light on what's happening in politics today.
Makes you think about the choices political parties make
Yeah.
and the potential consequences.
Intended or not.
And it reminds us that elections aren't just about individual candidates or their policies.
It's about these broader narratives.
Yeah.
The stories we tell ourselves as a society.
Those narratives are so powerful.
Absolutely. They shape how we see the world and ultimately how we vote.
I think the biggest takeaway from this deep dive is that understanding those narratives
Right.
and how they resonate with different groups of people is so crucial for anyone who wants to engage in meaningful political discourse.
It's about more than just winning an election.
Right.
It's about building a future that works for everyone.
Well said. And that's a goal worth striving for,
Yeah.
no matter what side of the aisle you're on.
So where do we go from here?
Yeah. What are the key things we should be thinking about?
Maybe we should start by looking at some of the specific issues
Okay.
that were raised during the campaign,
Like what?
like economic inequality,
Yeah.
healthcare,
Mhm.
and climate change.
I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
We need to dig deeper, understand the different perspectives, and
That-
look for potential solutions.
And we need to do it in a way that's both informative and engaging.
Right.
We need to move beyond the sound bites and partisan rhetoric
Yes.
and have real conversations about the challenges we face as a society.
It's a tall order,
Yeah?
but it feels essential.
Mm.
Our ability to address these challenges
Mm-hmm.
hinges on our willingness to engage in thoughtful and constructive dialogue.
It's about finding common ground, even when we disagree.
And remembering that we're all in this together.
Indeed. Perhaps that's the most important message of all.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Me too.
I'm feeling a lot more informed about this post-election landscape.
This has been a fascinating exploration. What about you? What resonates with you?
Yeah.
What questions are swirling around in your head after this discussion?
We want to hear your thoughts and perspectives because this is a conversation we need to have together.
Who knows? Your insights might even inspire our next deep dive. That's the beauty of this process.
Right.
There's always more to learn,
Yeah.
explore, and discuss.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the post-election analysis, anything else stand out to you from all this?
You know, it's funny how this ties into some bigger trends we've been seeing
Oh, yeah.
in politics, like both here in the U.S. and globally.
Okay.
There's this growing feeling of disillusionment with the establishment.
Right.
This sense that traditional political parties just aren't getting it.
Yeah.
Like, they're not addressing the needs of everyday people.
You're right. We've seen these populist movements popping up
Yeah,
on both
yeah.
sides.
On both ends of the spectrum.
And it feels like it's fueled by economic anxiety
Absolutely.
and this feeling that the system is rigged.
Against the working class.
Yeah. So how do political parties regain that trust
Right.
from voters who feel left behind by globalization and all this rapid technological change?
It's a huge question for them.
Yeah. How do they bridge that gap
Between the elites and those everyday concerns.
of people just trying to make ends meet?
Right.
It seems impossible,
It is a daunting challenge.
especially with information so fragmented these days.
Yeah.
And everyone in their own echo chambers.
It is, but I think you have to start by acknowledging these concerns are valid,
Yeah.
recognizing the struggles people face,
Right.
and going beyond those talking points to actually have a dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
like really listening to people who feel unheard.
That makes me think about what we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
About focusing on those bread and butter issues.
Right.
Maybe emphasizing the real ways policies affect people's lives.
Exactly.
Could help rebuild that connection with voters.
Yeah. It's about going beyond ideologies and connecting with people where they are,
Right.
speaking to their hopes and fears,
Mhm.
their aspirations for a better future.
It's about reminding people that politics isn't just some game.
Yeah.
It's something that impacts their lives directly.
Their families and their communities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by shifting the conversation that way, focusing on shared values and common goals,
Yeah.
maybe we can bridge these divides.
That have become so entrenched.
It's a nice thought.
It is hopeful, right?
Yeah, that even with all this polarization,
Uh-huh.
there's still a chance to find common ground.
And work towards something better.
A more just and equitable society.
I think there is.
Yeah.
It takes empathy and understanding
Yeah.
and a willingness to listen to those who see things differently.
It's not easy, but
But it's essential.
if we want to create a future where everyone can thrive.
Well said.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap things up.
Yeah,
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
absolutely.
We hope it's giving you some new insights.
Some food for thought.
Yeah, as we all try to figure out this post-election world.
The pleasure was all mine. Don't forget, this conversation doesn't end here.
Right.
Keep exploring these ideas. Talk to others and think critically about the future you want.
What do you think? Did the Democrats miss something big? Could a different approach have changed things?
Let us know.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts. We might even deep dive into your theories next time.
That's right.
Until then, keep diving deep.